What's up, everybody? Welcome to a very special episode of Miss the Bus podcast. This is a movie review. We just saw Ant-Man and the Wasp. We're super excited to talk about it and dive into it. Before we do, if you like what we do, you can subscribe to us on iTunes at Miss the Bus Podcast, on Twitter at Miss the Bus Pod, Facebook, just search Miss the Bus. We're on all kinds of different podcast things. Mm-hmm. Stitcher, Google Play. You can find it. We're all over the place. But yeah, check out our other stuff if you like this review. And I'm one of your hosts, Matt, joined today by Tyler, Bailey, Omar.
Hey.
Yo. Happy to be here.
As always. But yeah, like I said, we saw Ant-Man and the Wasp. We're probably going to do about a 5-10 minute spoiler-free discussion of it, and then we'll jump into more of like an in-depth spoiler. We'll let you know when you can jump off, though. If you haven't seen the movie yet, like I said, the first 10 minutes or so will be safe for you. But yeah, so we saw it. What's everybody think?
So good.
So good.
I enjoyed that movie very much. It was fun, and Paul Rudd is great, and I'm always going to love everything he's in, so I know it makes me biased, but I would like one person, to tell me, even if it was a bad movie, if he was bad in it.
He was so bad.
Are you thinking of
No,
Mute right
no,
now?
he was not.
I am. I'm thinking of Mute, but he was not bad in Mute.
He's not.
He was what saved.
He probably steals the show. In
Exactly. So I'm just saying.
Which he does in this.
And
he was amazing in this movie.
And they had so many characters in this movie that like didn't necessarily steal the spotlight from anything, but it's just everybody was very strong in their performances, and I don't know, it meshed really well, and I thought this was great. I enjoyed it, and I love Marvel movies, so I know that doesn't mean much, but
at this point, they've got their formula. They just keep trying.
They know what works, so they're doing it really well.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I mean, I really enjoyed this movie. I probably liked the first one the least out of everybody here, but this one was, I don't know. It was so funny, dude. I enjoyed it so much. Just a lot of moments where you're just like laughing hysterically. And it's not like you're just, like the only one laughing. Like the whole theater was laughing when we saw it. The plot, not to say it was simple, but not.
It was.
Yeah.
It definitely was.
It was, but I mean, still, like a lot was happening. They were, I keep forgetting this is not the
not
spoiler.
But
it was simple. I do like the fact that the villain and everything was going on. It wasn't like anything major, like, the fucking world was ending or anything. And I love that because so many movies do that shit and it gets kind of tiring. I understand it's not always the same approach, but I just hate the whole like large scale kind of, ending or whatever, or threat. So this movie wasn't that, they were, they had a reason for what they were doing, like they were trying to save a certain character or whatever. Really, really enjoyable, and I think everybody for the most part would enjoy this movie, whether you're a fan of Ant-Man or not. Honestly, it's just like a fun movie.
Well, yeah, it's way more of a comedy than an action movie, and I think they were doing the same thing that they were trying to do with Ragnarok, which for Ant-Man's character works really well, just like it does for Thor. So I mean, they did exactly what they needed to do.
And that's the thing. Ant-Man isn't really a character, or at least in this universe, he's not really a character to where you have to like include him with all the Avengers or even really talk about them a lot in the movie. Just and the way they tied it, I think worked for a character like Ant-Man. The movie obviously focused a lot more on Scott and his world and everything revolving around that. So I enjoyed it a lot.
Matt's
here we go with the grapes again.
Popping up another grape.
I know how to be correct about it.
Let's do it. Let's see. Let's
over
see.
here and just.
But yeah, that's what I thought. How about you, Tyler?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was funnier than the first one.
Yeah.
Just overall, like the whole movie from start to finish is really funny. It's really fun to watch. It's entertaining. I don't feel like it was a million times necessary as some of the other Marvel movies, but I still like it's just really fun. It doesn't really matter if it is or it doesn't. Just go see it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it served as like a very like well needed
and I think that's the point of it because Infinity War was dark, so I think they were like, "Fuck it, let's just make a fun movie
like
to just come afterwards."
That's exactly what it was.
I think if you're a fan of the MCU at this point, you're on board with what they're doing. So not to say like anybody you really like wanted a break from Infinity War, but at the same time, maybe you did need one, just in the sense that if at least it wasn't going to directly impact what happened in Infinity War, like the main plot of the movie.
Yeah.
So don't tell a story that tries to be as big as it. Just tell a story that's just more about having fun and being funny. And it was so fucking funny.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like y'all are saying, this is way more of a comedy, and that's what it should have been, and that's what it succeeded as. And like the plot definitely suffers in that extent because it's not very.
There is,
even though it's a much smaller
plot.
Scale plot, not to make a joke about Ant-Man or anything, but just because, like, since it isn't like this like end of the world type thing that's going on, there are other parts, like that's not the reason why the plot has problems. I think there are like a few pacing issues, and there are like just the way some of it kind of jumps around and stuff. You know what I mean? Like I didn't necessarily have a problem with it being such a small scale thing. I wanted that. I think, but overall, I mean, I fucking loved it so much. As a comedy, it works. Like
I think I like the first one a little more.
Really?
The villain's probably better in this one.
Well, yes. Cross
but
was
so
not
slightly.
that great of a
The
villain.
thing is,
Like,
I
probably
love
a
the
little
actor
bit.
that plays Cross.
Right.
So like, for me, and
I never
don't know
thought
if I'd
Cross
go
was
as-
that bad.
That's the thing. I don't know if I go as far as to say
He's
I
not
don't know.
awful.
I might
No.
like him more. I think I might.
He's kind
I
of more
never really had a
memorable.
problem with
I
him.
feel like he's kind of more memorable.
I think it was kind of cool, not to get too distracted by the first Ant-Man, but I kind of liked how some of the stuff he did at the beginning of that movie, like just like using the fucking zap thing on somebody and then just like squishing them with his shoe.
Yeah.
He's
He's kind of.
he was a
He's
pretty.
ki-
Well,
he's
his
crazy.
motivations
He was
made
good.
more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
The
that's
villain. I would say the weakest part about this movie, even more so than like some of the weird pacing things, is the villains.
Yeah.
and that's the thing.
'Cause
There's a few.
I just don't really
and one
care.
of them's kind of a throwaway.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't really matter that
Right.
much.
And it's
without
weird.
spoiling.
It's weird to try to pinpoint like who is the main villain of this then.
yeah,
Because you're like, I don't
that's
really
one of the
know.
jumping around things that I
Yeah.
kind of referring to because it's like something would happen in the movie that would kind of fuck them over, but then a different villain would kind of pop up and fuck them over a different
Right.
way.
Yeah,
and it was like a constant circle kind of.
I feel like a lot in this movie too. There's a lot of things that probably should be explained because it doesn't make any sense how certain things were
science.
happening. But it's
movie-
also another thing where it's like it's a movie about a man that shrinks to the size of an
Right.
ant, so you can't really look
It definitely
into it that
asks you to
much.
just like suspend your disbelief like
Yeah.
beyond a certain point, and then also to just put certain things together too. Not that the plot's complicated at all, but just they really
No.
don't show you everything when we're talking about things jumping around. Sometimes you do really have to like assume certain things just happen, and the movie wanted to be 2 hours and it wasn't going to be any longer than that.
Right.
So they were just like, we don't have time to show you how they got from point A to point B. They just did it.
yeah.
So, and that's something that like I don't think I really would have wanted more. Like in that sense, like I don't want to see stuff that didn't. If it wasn't going to be funny and it didn't serve like a purpose other than showing that, I'm not saying that I really wanted to see it. So it's hard to even knock the movie for some of like the jumpiness and stuff. And maybe there's just a better way to edit it or cut it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It gets kind of technical at that point because it's just something you notice, and it didn't like detract from the movie, but it is kind of.
I know
think
exactly
you'll
what you're
notice
talking
it.
about.
Yeah,
with
because
It's
me
just
and
one
Tyler
of
were
those
talking
things
about
where
it.
it's
I know
like
exactly what you're talking
they
about.
just expect you to ignore that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Right. But yeah, so we all thought it was funny. We all kind of liked how it was lighthearted.
Yeah,
Didn't
definitely.
really get too
It's just
heavy
an
on
easy
it,
movie to watch.
Yeah.
you know.
Really enjoyable.
I guess we can all kind of, since this isn't really a spoiler, if we're going to do this now, we can all kind of say, do we like it more than the first one or second one? Tyler, you slightly like Ant-Man 1 more, right?
Yeah, I think my reasoning would go into spoilers a little bit.
Okay.
So I'll explain it later.
I guess
But,
that's true.
It's not by like a large scale. It's not by like I like the first one 10 times more.
Right.
I feel like the first one I kind of just give it a little more of an edge, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because I kind of like the way they did Paul Rudd's character and like introducing him and stuff a little
Right.
more. I enjoyed it more, I guess. But I mean, this movie's still really enjoyable.
Right. What about the supporting characters? Y'all like a lot of returning ones, like Michael Pena's character?
Oh, for
and
sure.
That
think-
whole group.
I think they
Yeah.
did way better with those characters in this, which they were great in the first movie, but they really, I guess, understood what this character group was going to be, so they like completely fed into that.
They're-
And
yeah.
Well, they knew kind of
All
like
their-
how big of a smash hit that
Right.
whole circle of like
They're fucking
like they
hilarious.
were in the
work
first
really
one.
well together.
Yeah.
So all the parts with them, like comedy wise, hit for me. I thought
Oh,
they were
for
all
sure.
like I didn't get tired of anything,
Yeah.
like ongoing stuff at all either.
I
so.
do kind of wish T.I. and the other guy were in it a little bit more.
Yeah, because they're so funny. So you
Because
kinda
Michael
do wish
Pena's
you
in it
saw
a
them.
lot, and they're kind of just there.
Yeah.
But Michael Pena's so fucking funny.
He is really
Dude,
funny.
he's,
Yeah.
he's so fucking hilarious.
That's what I'm saying. They know what they've got with
Yeah,
them because
Yeah.
they're so good. Visually really cool too, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
this isn't really too much of a spoiler because if you've watched any of the trailers, you see kind of like the kitchen fight and stuff like that. And you know, the movie was going to do a lot of just like expanding things, making them smaller, and just using that as the set pieces for the fight. So, even aside from what was already that you saw in the trailers, I thought that like a lot of it was really cool and clever. You know what I mean?
I feel like some of the stuff they did with using the technology was a little cooler in this one.
Yeah.
I would give it that edge.
For sure.
Like some more creative.
Well, because
points.
and again, it's one of those things where they made the first movie, they knew what they had in the first movie.
I
And
still-
it's just a little bit
yeah.
more of the same, but in the sense that we're gonna be like, okay, well, what else would be cool? How
I
do
still
we kind
think-
of tell a story like that, but make it?
I still think the train moment in the first one, the Thomas the
Oh,
Tank
God,
Engine,
I
is still
love
the
that.
best.
Oh.
But there are things in this that are a lot better than some of the stuff in the first one when it comes to that.
Agreed. All right, so we're about 10 minutes, so that's fine. We'll get into spoilers now. If you haven't seen the movie, I think all four of us recommend it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So definitely go check it out, especially if you're just invested in this universe at this point. Definitely go watch it. And I would, definitely, if you haven't seen it, just hop off now. Maybe come back and listen to it after. But we're definitely going to spoil it from here on out. So, what do we want to talk about first? We'll leave the after credits scene until later on.
Well, the first thing that's popping in my head, so they were trying to, I mean, you can only be like, you see Paul Rudd really big, like he does the whole like giant thing, and then he's like obviously the size of an ant, but then they do the preschool.
That's
like,
what I was just thinking.
I forgot all about that.
That's what I was just thinking.
When they have him, they're like, his suit's malfunctioning, so he's like the size of a child, and they're like, in a broom closet or something. Like, what do we do? And then they look at the lost and found box. And then you see Paul Rudd with a giant sweatshirt just like running down the hall.
I swear to God,
like
dude, when he was running and he was like swinging his arms. And it was just like the sleeves are like all over the place.
And that's going into the whole like, there is no really need for that scene, but it was so funny.
It's so
and
hilarious.
it did so well.
That's what I'm saying.
Deadpool 2.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what it reminds me of.
In a movie
true.
like this, it's like those scenes that don't really involve like the plot a ton. Those are like some of the best parts of the movie when it's literally there just for comedy, because that's all that scene was.
Oh,
it was just straight comedy, and it was literally hilarious.
And that
like,
works
music they had
for like
playing
a character
for it
like
and
Ant-Man.
everything.
I mean, it's
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, I loved it.
Well, Paul
That's
Rudd, obviously, he nails pretty much every role
Oh,
he's
yeah.
given at this
His
point.
comedic timing is perfect.
He's got it down to a point. We don't need to tell you how good Paul Rudd is. But he definitely, when those scenes like that, he shines so much. He's so funny.
I think this movie was like also way more about the Wasp. Like it was more about her, like
This was
Hope's
like
character.
Well, the whole opening is like pretty much just going through the whole backstory of like Hope's mom being lost in the quantum realm, and so her and her dad obviously are like trying to figure out a way to get her back because they found out like you could come back because Paul Rudd came back in the first movie. So
and they're on the run because
because
of like Scott using the suit with
Germany.
Captain America and everything.
Right,
And they know
and that's kind of cool because this movie definitely still feels connected because they bring that up. You know, the whole part about him, like why he's arrested, and he's like, we went to go help Cap, and they make jokes about that. And,
it's so funny that he's like Cap, and she's like Cap, and he's just like Captain America. God, it was so funny.
That's just what we call him.
That and the whole like shrinking of the building they were in,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then turn it
The
into a
fucking rolling
suitcase.
suitcase.
Oh,
So
but
There's one part where the building gets shrunk again, but Lawrence Fishburne was in the building,
I was thinking that too.
and it got shrunk, and then he's just outside of the building. But like,
that's the part. That's the whole science thing with Ant-Man
Yeah.
in general, because
Yeah.
it's like the same thing where when Michael Pena's driving the car, like he's shrinking with the car, and I'm not
Yeah.
really understanding why they can shrink.
What do you
Well,
mean?
it's just like-
well, all the cars have that thing in the
Right,
middle.
but like he shrinks with the car. So like what
Well,
I'm
I
saying,
guess- I
I
don't
thought
know.
it like you had to be in the suit in order to
Oh.
shrink.
well, I just thought like if
Well, there's
So
so many logic problems because then you even think about Ghost,
Yeah.
one of the villains or whatever you're gonna call
Right.
Ghost. But when they first introduce her character, even as like a young child, and she's got the issues with phasing through everything.
Mm-hmm.
But like, so you even think like in her room, like she can't grab the teddy bear, but she's like still
On the
standing
bed.
on the floor and like
Yeah.
sitting on her bed and stuff and
Right.
not going.
oh, I
through
didn't even
that.
fucking think about
That's
that.
Yeah.
the thing. It's like stuff like that. They just, I guess, expect you to.
Yeah,
She would
that's
just
what I
fall
mean
through
by,
the
like,
earth.
right? Because see, that's where my mind starts going. Because I'm thinking like, okay, so why can she sit on the bed? But then it's like, you do really just have to suspend your disbelief because then,
Yeah.
are you just gonna assume, she's gonna fall
Yeah.
through the earth all the way to the
She just
fucking
keeps
core and burn
falling.
up?
Right.
What I kept thinking with the Lawrence Fishburne thing is when the building would shrink down to size, wouldn't it just fucking like smack him on the way down? You know what I mean? Like
He's like,
he
hey,
wouldn't,
ow.
he would not feel okay with a building shrinking through him like
Right.
that. Like I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, and again, so like now since we've been able to talk a little bit more about what the actual plot was, you can see why it was a little bit more of a simple thing. And I guess the story, like we said, was really set up from the first Ant-Man. We knew as soon as that movie ended that the sequel was going to be about going back to get
her mom,
her mom.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, that's what everybody was kind of wanting from this movie anyway.
Right.
So that's why I really think it kind of plays into it that it didn't have that complicated of a plot because everybody was really already on board for seeing this part of the story. It's like the next evolution of it.
Yeah.
Movie was also very touching and sweet. All the stuff with
His
like him and his
daughter.
daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Even the way it starts, like with them just going down the slide and stuff. Like some of that stuff is so cool.
They show him
See,
like in house arrest.
And that's what I wanted to say of why I think I like the first one a little more. Because in the first one, like in the beginning, he gets out of prison. He's really trying to be this good guy. He's trying to be there for her, but it's kind of just things keep going wrong. But in this one, it's like she already loves him. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like in the first one, he kind of had to work for it, and that's kind of the aspect.
But the thing is, she still like looked
no,
up
she
to
did.
her dad.
She
in the
did
first
for
one.
sure. But I liked a little more about the first one was him really trying to be a good guy.
Right.
Like in this one, he is a good guy.
And I think in the first one too, because he's definitely trying. I think he's almost trying more for that whole family.
Yeah.
You know, with
I did like like everybody, like Judy
That's the
Greer
thing.
and Bobby Cannavale.
every single time he saw him, he was just calling him like buddy.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Like,
buddy.
I liked all
give him
that
like
a
a big
lot.
hug.
I feel like in a way you could relate his relationship with Cassie to Hope's relationship with her dad, with Hank in the first movie. How Hank is, trying to reamend things or whatever
That's
with
true.
Hope, and Scott is trying to
Yeah.
reamend things with Cassie. And then the second movie, him and his daughter are close, and so is Hope and her mom. I don't know. I just kind of
Yeah, no, I get
I
that.
definitely see that.
And that's why
Very
this does work as almost like a
relatable.
part 2
Yeah.
kind of thing.
yeah.
It does. It was like I said. It's like the general evolution of where this story would go. It
The
just made so much
scene
sense.
where they're starting to work towards getting Hope's mom back, and she like takes control
Oh,
of
so funny.
of
Oh my god.
Scott. Yeah, Paul Rudd. It was really, really
You know
funny.
who it reminded me of? It reminded me of Schmidt from New Girl. Like the way he was like acting and everything. It was just like the way Schmidt talks.
literally just acts like that 24/7.
Yeah. So I was like, fuck. Dude,
No,
that's
it's
Schmidt.
just funny too, because like at first, like you didn't even realize what was happening
Yeah.
until like he looked at like Hope and he was like, "Oh, sweetie," and
Yeah.
then like touched her cheek, and I was like, "What?"
And when he was holding
And
Hank's
he's holding
hand.
Hank's
yeah,
hand.
and then Hank Pym's and he like realizes it's her, and then like they're all just like sitting there holding hands.
It's so fucking funny.
And like it's just the way he was like talking and
Yeah.
like the types of movements he was doing. It was perfect.
Yeah,
I
I
love
fucking
that
loved it.
scene.
We don't
so
talk
much.
about Michael Douglas enough either. I love Michael Douglas.
Yeah, me too.
He works so well as that character.
I do too. There was this one scene though
Where he's over dramatic.
it's like the way he delivered
Yeah.
a line, I was just like, man, this seems like something he would have, like in an 80s movie kind of thing. Like, the way he was, I guess that's the best way to put it. It was over dramatic. But
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
was.
with him, though, he can get away
He
with
has
I was
that.
gonna say it
Yeah.
almost made his character that much funnier.
Yeah.
Because
like, Michael Douglas, too, is just, he's always been a dramatic actor. So
Yeah.
I feel like it just makes sense. But whenever I saw it, I was just like, whoa, that was.
I really
It
enjoyed
was-
the dynamic him and Paul Rudd had, especially at the beginning of the movie, because obviously Hank Pym's like bitter
Mhm.
because
yeah.
of this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I really kind of liked that because in the first movie, it's like the opposite, really. They're like much more buddy, and it's almost like Hank Pym's trying to get Paul Rudd to help him out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then this was like way more just like, no, I'm pissed at you. You're going to do what I want you to do.
Well,
Yeah, exactly.
it was funny the whole bit when he's like, you got rid of my suit. That's my
Oh,
life's
yeah.
work. And then like 20 minutes later, he's like, you still have the suit? And he's like, it's your life's work. I couldn't get rid of it.
life's work.
I thought it was really cool when they were. I guess I thought it was cool because I didn't expect it, but when they were all tied up, and he goes
The
like,
ringtone?
he was acting like he's well, yeah, that part was fucking funny.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about when he was like acting
the
like he's
heart
having a
attack?
heart attack, whatever, and
Yeah.
he goes like, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, the Altoids. Or whatever?
Altoids,
yeah.
Okay, Altoids, and the fucking ants like jump out and they're ready.
Well,
for it.
it's funny too because in the beginning he kept like Paul Rudd kept
Oh, yeah,
trying
yeah,
to get the
yeah.
Altoids.
I knew that was going to come back. I
Yeah.
knew there
It
was
had
something.
to
I knew it
something.
was, but that's not what I was expecting. I don't know.
I was just like, oh,
I thought there was like a fucking suit in there or something.
Yeah, I knew the Altoids were going to
I
end up
did-
doing
Yeah.
something.
yeah, I didn't think it was gonna be ants.
It's funny though because
Yeah.
that scene is kind of what I think me and Tyler were talking about with some of the jumpiness because
Yeah.
they literally get the Altoids and the ants jump out and kind of chaos ensues, but then it literally just cuts to them being back into their fucking
There's-
like lab. or
Yeah, there's
whatever.
another scene like that too where Michael Douglas, they're showing something with Ant-Man, I don't remember what, and then they switch and Michael Douglas is already in the building with Lawrence Fishburne in there, and it's like very just like, it
Yeah.
happens like that, and I was just kind of like, huh?
That's the thing; it doesn't show you how they actually get
Yeah.
around,
Which I guess
again,
it
you
does,
don't need to
you
know.
don't need it, but
And since this movie's functioning more of as a comedy anyway, I think
Yeah.
it works out. But yeah, and then really the whole kind of like third act I thought was really good. And some of these not really Marvel movies, I guess. Normally their third acts are pretty good, but I thought like that was almost where the movie shined anyway. Like even with the plot being the way it was, I thought like that's when you finally start seeing him going like bigger.
yeah.
And so you had almost that new dynamic of, again, visually stuff that it's showing you, and it's still being funny as fuck. And
Well, I completely forgot too. Whenever whenever Hank Pym is like, I have to go talk to like my old colleague to like figure
Oh, yeah.
this out to get your mom back. It's Lawrence Fishburne. Then they like. You find out that they kind of hate each other, and then our whole theater like gasped whenever like it was showing the villain Ghost, and she was like in some room, and then like out walks Lawrence Fishburne, and you didn't realize, like, you immediately were like, oh, he's a bad guy, but he's not. I did in the
theater when we were watching. I forgot what he screamed, but he goes like, a fucking twist, bro, or something like that.
Our like whole theater gasped at that, and because at first they make it seem like he's gonna be a villain, but it's really just like he's trying to help this girl,
right?
And like he thought he was doing the right thing, but it ended up not being the right thing.
This movie.
What did y'all think of Ghost as like a character? Like, I thought she looked super cool. And there wasn't anything wrong with her.
I don't know.
As a character, I thought she was okay. At times, I thought she was cool. As a villain, no. I mean, absolutely not.
I didn't really care for her performance that much.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking
just
the same
her
thing.
kind of her brooding, like I get it, but I don't.
But I guess they were trying to do the whole like she's in pain constantly, but it wasn't really portraying that way. It more seemed like she was just like bitter. Like she wasn't, which I mean, it makes sense because both her parents died.
Right. We've just seen like at least that sense of like. I would compare it to X-Men when you see mutants where they're just like they're dealing with like powers they don't understand and they're like so we just know like those characters always have like the rough childhood and then they end up figuring their powers out and being fine. And I think just, it's kind of like exhaustion. If
she was the only thing about this movie, I wouldn't have liked it as much. But the fact that there was like other things happening and they, were trying to save Hope's mom and all that.
Right.
I think it just kind of, it was like, okay.
Her plot at least very much felt like the B plot of the movie.
Exactly.
Which is good.
They, the way they explained like why she is the way she is too, the whole time I was just like, I mean, she is S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Bucky. Cause like, the Winter Soldier, like, they pretty much were like, oh, like, we took her, and then we found out her powers, and then we pretty much brainwashed her into being, like, a killer, and then that was what S.H.I.E.L.D. did, but then, like, for Winter Soldier, obviously, Bucky was like that for Hydra, so.
I thought that, too, especially when they were showing,
I just thought that was weird,
the camera footage, I think, of her,
Yeah, because it looked very much like that, so, like, the camera footage from, like, Civil War, that's what it reminded me of, too, actually.
Right.
Did y'all like Walton Goggins' character?
Who?
I loved him. I like him, but I wish he was like more intense.
I feel like they he was really funny.
That's the thing.
And he was really cool, and I like him and everything when I see him, but I feel like they kind of wasted his character a little bit because he's kind of a throwaway.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Like he could have definitely been more.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because he was just in Tomb Raider, too, and it was the same thing. He's kind of just... He's the villain. He's there.
He's pretty funny, because it's just the way he talks and stuff like that. So that's, like, it worked in that sense, but again, as a villain, I thought the villains in the movie were so weak anyway, so... It sucks because I enjoyed him, because I laughed at him a lot, but I definitely wouldn't say he was, like, a good villain at all.
It's so weird, too, because it's like Ghost was the villain for Ant-Man and the Wasp, but then, like, he was the villain for, like, the... like... lackeys of Ant-Man.
Yeah, so I guess that makes it funnier if you look at it that way.
Like he's like their villain, whereas like Ghost is Ant-Man and the Wasp's villain.
The whole truth serum thing was funny as hell.
First of all,
I'm happy they did that with Michael Pena.
The amount of puns in this movie spoke to my soul.
Because you're
puns.
Like all the ant puns, and then like the fact that their name for their company was ex-con.
Oh yeah,
I loved that. But like, so whenever they had the whole like scene where Walter Goggins' character like goes in and is pretty much like tell us where they are, and then like they have the whole truth serum thing, and then they do the whole truth serum. Well, they do the whole thing that they did in the first Ant-Man with Anthony Pena's character or
Michael
Luis.
Pena.
Did I say Anthony?
So Anthony and Luis.
I was thinking of like Anthony, the ant.
Yeah,
dude,
you were making your own.
Oh, I thought it was fucking hilarious when Scott was trying to catch up with I forgot his name, the villain's name or whatever.
It was Antonio Banderas. Is that what you're talking about?
Jesus.
Yeah, when he's like naming the ants and he's fucking falling and they're getting eaten by the birds. I was dying.
Oh,
dude.
that was
so fucking funny.
But yeah, they did the whole like thing where is it Luis? Is that his name?
I can't remember his name.
It is? Okay. His character like does the whole thing where he's like explaining everything in his way. But it's like extremely quick.
For that.
And I mean, I loved that so much in the first one, but I'm glad when they did it in this movie. It's like they did it for a very long amount of time, and then they never revisited that.
I thought everything with Hope, like in that scene when he was voicing
when she was acting,
it was fucking amazing. Like it was so awesome, and her movements and everything.
I loved that.
With the accent, yeah, dude, I fucking loved it so much.
I thought Randall Park, the guy that plays Asian Jim.
Funny.
I thought he was really funny. I didn't know he was in this movie.
Me neither. I'm really glad he was, because I feel like that's another character that could have just been like they could have had anybody play that character and it wouldn't be funny, but
he
they
was
could have
really
accomplished
funny.
the role. But yeah, he was so funny.
They did that whole scene with them at the end. Oh, everything too with the magic. Like when it's like he's in his office, like Paul Rudd's like saying like I had to learn magic to like entertain my kid, and then it shows him in the security. I just said security guy. The Asian Jim. They show him in his office, and he's like trying to do the same magic tricks on his computer.
Right, he's got the same website up and
funny.
everything.
Just like small things like that.
Well, that's the thing. I think the movie succeeded because they had even characters like that. They just made sure they had such good chemistry with Paul Rudd, and they just gave him he's surrounded by people that he can play off of.
Exactly.
And so that worked so well for making the whole movie just feel as funny as it did. Probably got about 5 minutes left, so we should probably talk about the end credit scene. Hopefully everybody that watched this movie knows by now to stick around in Marvel movies.
There's two.
Right. Well, there's one more to talk about.
I know.
But yeah, so the end credit scene, obviously, if you've seen it, ties directly into Infinity War. I think there was a lot of speculation that obviously, because we know this takes place before, that it would kind of lead up to it and somebody would dust. And then literally without going like through the scene, obviously you've probably seen it. But how crazy is it now that we know this ties directly into that? Basically, it sets up a kind of like an opening plot line for Ant-Man 2 because he's kind of fucked now.
Yeah.
He's stuck in the quantum realm, and all three of Hope, Hank Pym, and whatever her mom's name is.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer, yeah.
All three of them vanished with Thanos' snap. So, I mean, that was really crazy.
The whole time they were like showing the after credits scene too, I'm just sitting there like, how are they going to have this play into that? Because you just had a feeling that it was going to happen, and I can tell you, I was not expecting. Whenever he's like saying like, "Okay, I got it," and then like no one's answering, and then it skips back to them like
I thought
all
it was so
gone.
Cool.
Oh man!
The thing
I
is,
the way they showed that too. Like you didn't actually see them poof.
You just
cut
saw
back
it.
and it was
Cut
already
back and they're
dust.
gone.
It was like I thought that was really cool.
The thing is, we know he's going to be in Avengers 4, whatever.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure you've seen the set photos and everything.
He's going to be a much bigger part because I think the quantum realm and whatever we learn from Captain Marvel are going to be the two key components to taking down Thanos.
So I guess we'll just see how they end up.
Yeah,
I just love it. I love it. I really was expecting
Well, that's
it.
the
Like
thing.
I had this feeling, but it still was really hype when it actually
Yeah,
because
for sure.
I knew I was going into the movie, I was confident, and then watching the movie, I was like, this movie was so much fun. I guess I wouldn't be surprised if they just stay clear completely and don't do it. But I was kind of getting bummed out because I was like, I really do want to see us go into Infinity War. And then it happened, and I was like, they know what they're doing.
It was
They
perfect.
are so fucking.
Yeah, it was so good.
Like this whole year in between Infinity War and Avengers 4, they need to play into that as much as they can, and they've done something like really impressive. Just like an entire theater, just the gasp we heard.
Everyone freaked out.
Like we're saying, we all kind of knew they would do something.
Yeah.
But think about how so many people that don't actually listen to stuff like a podcast like this and like just search the internet for every little thing they can find. There's so many people that were like legitimately like, "Holy fuck!"
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, it was perfect. That was probably one of my favorite after credit scenes.
I mean, yeah,
A guy, right?
One of the best
I think
ones.
either in front of us or something. He after that happened, he goes like, "Well, there's no Ant-Man 3. There's no Ant-Man 3."
Because then they even put the question mark at the
Yeah.
end of the
Which I thought was so fucking funny.
Yeah.
And the last scene of the movie where they're watching the movie, and then
the
it
drive-in.
zooms out and it's a fucking laptop. Everything they do with like the size
and
and
stuff
everything,
is
it's
so
so
cool.
fucking cool, man. Yeah.
They did
I loved
that.
it.
I mean, they did that well in the first one, but they played into it so much more in this
Yeah,
one, which was
fuck,
great.
man.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there is a second extra or after credit scene that really just
At the very
it's
end.
more comedy. It's,
Yeah.
it's after all that happens, but then the ant is playing on the drums. But the second is right before that where you see like the TV just
And
kind of
everything's,
in
like,
like
silent.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
like radio
yeah.
silence and everything.
You know what's funny? That ant playing the drum set, I'm pretty sure that was in the trailer for the movie. I think it was
It
that
was.
shot.
Really?
It was.
Yeah, and that's
Because
the after credits scene.
I remember seeing the trailer and being like, why the hell is there a reason for an ant to be playing a... Like, I was like, oh, that's not even going to be in the movie, which it wasn't, but it was in the after credits scene. But I obviously that part was really funny, but the whole, like, TV, like, going dead and
Yeah.
everything, that
It's
was creepy.
I really want to see, and I don't know if we'll see it in Avengers 4, but I hope maybe one of the TV shows, or the Marvel TV shows, does a good job of it. But you got to think, like, this whole world, when, like, during this time where half the population's gone, like, that's a very interesting concept to, like, explore, especially if you've watched The Leftovers.
Yes.
Which is dealing with 2% of the population going away. I mean, imagine half of it vanishing. Like,
yeah.
I would really like to see some of, like, the state of the Marvel world
Right.
with half the population
I mean,
gone.
there has to be like shots in Avengers 4 where they're just traveling somewhere and you just see like nothingness.
well,
Yeah.
that's what sucks.
I really hope, even if it's only for maybe the first 10 minutes of the movie, I just
Right.
hope they like very much set up that whole atmosphere.
I feel like that would be
of
way
many people
cooler.
being gone.
Just because in the Infinity War, obviously they couldn't really build on that too much because it was at the very end of
Right.
the movie. But you don't get to, like, you only see the effects of, like, the Avengers and, like, what's happening with them. You don't get to see the actual world. So, other than, like, the after credit scene for Infinity War, which is still not even that much.
Right. And even, they show, like, little flashes of it, because I remember in that after credit scene, even seeing, like, just, like, the helicopter go down, you see cars crash, which, again, comes kind of, like, from the leftovers.
Right.
But it's just stuff like that. Like, I really want to see kind of, like, how the state of the world is with everybody going on. What I just thought about, too, was the first time during the movie that Michael Pena sees the fucking ant in his house, and he just, like, screams, and he looks at him, he's like, Scotty, is that you?
Oh, man. That whole, like, thing whenever they train the ant to just act like a human, that was another thing that's just, like, crazy.
And how it had the little house arrest brace on his leg.
So good. All right, so we should rate it, because we're at about 30 minutes now, so we'll start with Tyler. What do you rate it, and is it better than Ant-Man 1?
Oh, you're really going to make me go first?
Yeah, I'm making you go first.
I don't know. You see, I loved the first Ant-Man so much when I saw it, and I like put it in my top 5 immediately, and I still have this special place in my heart for it, and just the way that story's told. So I think I still like the first one a little bit more, but this one was still really, really fun, very enjoyable. Everybody go see it. I don't know. I would rank. I guess I'd give it like a 7.8, maybe an 8. I don't know. I'd have to like think about it.
7.8.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
All right, yeah, I'll go with that.
That's high, so. No, I mean, I'm going to be higher. But anyway,
right,
so
Bailey, what do you think?
I think that I like this better. I actually, after the movie ended, I even like told you, I was like, I don't know if which one I like more, but I like thought about it more, and I was thinking about scenes, and I think the first Ant-Man is great, and I loved it, but this one, if you look at it more as what it is, which is supposed to be a comedy just in a universe that you love, and the fact that all the comedy hit with me, I don't know. I just really enjoyed this movie, and so I'd probably give it an 8.5.
I would say I think there are things in this movie that are better than stuff in the first one.
Right.
The story-wise, yes, the first one, it's a good origin story, I feel. So
that's the aspect I like more.
that, but I still think this was more enjoyable.
That makes sense.
It showed more of the character that I wanted to see.
And Hope's character is better in this one, too.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
much better.
So much better.
All right, Omar.
Okay. Like I said, the first one I was all right about. I enjoyed it, but that was about it really when it came to that. The second one, which I didn't expect at all, but I loved it so much, dude. Really, really funny. Like I said, the plot was simple, but that's all right. I mean, that's what we kind of expected from a character like Ant-Man, really, and it works so well. All the characters fucking amazing. So yeah, I'd say 8. I'd say 8 out of 10.
I was close. I was close to 8. So
yeah, I'd say 8.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I think it's hard, but I think I like it more than the first one. I think it's definitely funnier. And yeah, the first one might tell like more of just like a cohesive, just like origin story, which is, it does a really good job of that. But I think this movie as a comedy, which is what I'm sort of looking at it as, it was just so funny. And I think I had like a little bit more fun with this. So I think I liked it more. And I'd probably give it an 8.5. I thought it was really good. And I think like Ant-Man was obviously the perfect character to follow up Infinity War with. If you're gonna do this, where you're gonna do like a palate cleansing kind of just like not throwaway, but just to kind of remind people how happy the MCU can be and just kind of fun.
Yeah.
So I think it definitely accomplished that, and honestly, it leaves you just so ready for the next one. And for the first time in a while, because Marvel movies seem like they're coming out like so often, but I'm literally like, oh, it seems like such a long time to wait now, because we know the next one's not until March of next year when we get Captain Marvel, which will be a whole new story. Still tying into Infinity War, obviously, but like this just feels like we have like a slight like drought now of no Marvel.
I know.
MCU
we do
movies.
because, and I was saying this when we saw this movie, but in the past year, since around, let's say through last May, like May 2017, we've gotten Guardians, then we had Spider-Man, then we had Thor, then we had Black Panther, and then we had Infinity War. We've had like 5 within the past like 13, 14 months.
It was crazy because like in actual like annual years, they normally do 3. But yeah, if you think about like a year from now, it's really been 5.
And now, a year from now, we'll just have gotten 2 more. Right.
So, but yeah, so that's our review of Ant-Man and the Wasp. Definitely, hopefully you've seen it, and this was just kind of you talking about it with us. But if for some reason you got it spoiled for you, I'm really sorry, and go watch it.
That's your fault.
You're a dummy.
Even if you spoiled it, go watch it.
Yeah, I would say you'll still have a lot of fun.
It's still really funny.
Really enjoyable.
Us repeating the jokes doesn't do any of them justice. But yeah, if you enjoyed this, definitely go on iTunes. If you have a second, subscribe to us and leave us a review. We'd really appreciate it. We read those out sometimes. We need to get back to doing
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, this has been our review. We like to do movie reviews for kind of these bigger movies, so definitely check it out whenever you see something you like. And that's it. See y'all later.
Peace.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.